Mark, you deal with this here in Texas, right?
I do. Yes, I do. I see it quite a bit.
How frequent is it in Texas and the Metroplex?
Well, to answer that question, I think it's important that we kind of define what a squatter is, because a lot of times landlords come to me and their idea of what a squatter, someone who's been paying rent under a lease, for example, and they stop paying rent. I wouldn't consider them a squatter. What you're talking about is a very hostile possession situation. Those in Texas, I don't see a lot. I do hear about them quite a bit in other states. Most of the squatter situations that I'm running into involve a tenant who may or may not execute a lease, but they end up taking possession of the property under false pretenses. So perhaps they'll make a promise of a payment. Usually there's a housing emergency involved, which should always be a red flag for a landlord. But that's typically what I'm seeing.
Well, I can tell you that in the research we've done for shows and things in the past, we've run across a fair amount of straight up fraudulent squatters in the Metroplex that actually work neighborhoods. They go in one house, they finally get out of that, they move up the street, go into another one. We've got victims that have spent as much as $250,000 trying to get them out. So it can be a serious problem. Flash, you weren't involved in this until they hit your mother's house. How'd they get into your mother's house?
My father had passed away. We moved my mom in with me to sell her house so she could move on. It was a remote location in Northern California. To just the family, we just didn't want her up there by herself. We listed the house, had a sign in the front yard, and I got a report that the realtor said there was, people coming and going, and they couldn't do anything with the house. And neighbors told me that the back door was broken in. So I did like everyone. I called the sheriff, and I expected them to just go in and rip them out, arrest them for breaking and entering, trespassing. And I was told the words that everyone dreads, that, there's a house full of furniture. It appears you have a squatter and there's nothing we can do.
All right, let's talk about this, because I can tell you what our listeners are thinking and viewers are thinking about right now. You just said back door was broken into. Okay, now that's not always the case because they do some different things, which we'll get to in a minute. But in some cases, it's just that blatant. They break through a window or a door. Mark, how is that not breaking and entering?
It is breaking and entering. The problem with that scenario is it puts law enforcement in the position of being the judge. If they come to a property and a homeowner is complaining that the occupants of the property have broken and entered, but then the police officer observes things like beds in the property, he has no way of knowing. It's their word against the landlord's. So they often are very hesitant to do anything. And that's where the homeowners end up hearing the unfortunate words, it's a civil matter. That's something we hear a lot.
Okay, every situation that we've investigated here, and there have been many from Florida to California, they tell me when the police get there, they present some kind of piece of paper. I mean, they've literally, and I mean this literally, not as a extreme example, but literally, they have a lease written out on the back of a fast food sack.
Right.
And it's not signed. They've written out, I agree to rent or lease this property to so-and-so for X amount of dollars. Yeah, I mean, it's just scribbled out. And as soon as they show that to the police say, well, this is now a civil matter. There's documentation here. There's a lease. If they didn't have anything, they were just in your house and they had nothing, maybe we could do something, but that's not the case. They've got a lease here. They've got a rental agreement. They've got something. So you're going to have to go down and file something with civil court, start eviction procedures and processes. But as the police, we can't do anything. Is that true?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Flash, let me know what you've encountered out there dealing with these people.
Yes, in some cases, they don't even need to show anything. They just have to say they have a lease. In my situation, the difference between being arrested for breaking and entering or trespassing was evidence. The fact that there was reasonable doubt and law enforcement could not determine if they broke in or not, it was a civil matter. If I had video, if I had proof, if I had, cameras up and I could say, look, this is when they broke in, then it would have been a different story.
And Dr. Phil, in my practice, I see as much as 30% of the evictions we're handling at any one time driven by oral agreements. So that the prevalence of oral agreements for leases really complicates the situation for law enforcement.
Man, I would think so. We have a video listed here of yours, Flash, says how I removed squatters in less than a day. Is that something we can play?
Hi, are you Flash?
Yeah.
I'm Marla.
Hey.
I'm really sorry about all this. I really am. It's just, it's a nightmare beyond. I mean,
The stuff is in the house. You told me that it was accidentally delivered and it was in the garage.
no, I didn't say it was in the garage. Oh, no. No. I never said that.
But
Well,
but anyway, I mean, it's been in the house for
a lot.
a long
Yeah.
time. And,
It
I've
has.
had realtors over here telling me they can't do anything because of all this stuff. And so basically, I'm up here, I'm leaving, and it all has to be out before I leave. I've got guys scheduled to come take the stuff out later today. So either you take it out or I have to take it out and put it out on the driveway until it gets picked up. But I can't leave with anything in there, or whatever's left in there is staying in there. So I'm putting cameras up in a security system, and I have to deal with this house.
I understand.
So it's been way too long, and I need to do something. I need to get rid of it.
I have lost my crew somewhere, and I'm trying to load them down, but we're gonna load by load take it out of here.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, at this point I have no choice. I just need to.
I
do stuff.
understand. I would be in
I mean, I was
less friendly
overwhelmed
about
by the
this.
amount of stuff when I pulled in here. When I pulled in here yesterday, I mean, I didn't expect all this. So,
Okay, well,
but this has just been a nightmare all along, and
yeah, I'm sorry to have added to that. I really am. I'm sorry.
I wish we could have worked something out, but I couldn't do anything with no money.
I hear that.
So, all right. But at this point, I'm not. Clearly, I didn't call the police and press charges or anything like that. I just want it done, and then you and I need to talk about the financial inconvenience that this has caused, because I haven't been able to do anything with this house for months, because every time they come over here, they tell me that there's people here and that there's furniture in the house. So
And who's telling you that
the realtors.
that there's people here? Because
Yeah. So neighbors tell me that they see people coming in and the lights on. Someone went in and turned on the power because their power was off to the house. So neighbors have been telling me that there's been a lady and some other people, like young and old, and some a mixture between female and males, coming into the house at night, and the lights are on at night.
well, that would
I
not
got
be
neighbors
us.
there, neighbors there, neighbors there, and neighbors
That would
there.
never be us.
And those
sir.
are the ones that have been calling me, telling me.
Yeah.
Move stuff in.
I mean, there's
yesterday.
earbuds sitting on the table and stuff on the
there's
couches,
stuff
and
everywhere.
Oh,
there's
they
That's
went through
not ours.
all of those boxes have been gone through and moved. Yeah, no.
We don't know what's missing, and
Yeah, so
partially
that's
our own
my
fault,
that's
so.
my fault. That is all of it. I should have paid better attention. That's beside the point. We just need to get it done and taken care of because it
So just
make the right.
do what you can to get it out. Like I said, I mean, I have to start putting stuff in the driveway, and so that I can lock it up, because once I leave, you're not going to be able to get back in.
But we
Okay,
haven't-
so I'm
we
trying to
haven't
give
been- it
you.
hasn't- we have none of us.
No,
have
but I'm
been
saying
with
to
that.
get your stuff. I'm saying
Yeah, I
get
know.
your stuff out. Even if you can't, even if you don't have something to haul it with right now, get it out. Get it out here so that I can secure the house up. That's all. That's what I'm asking.
Okay.
Okay, because I don't want to be the one tomorrow telling you, I'm sorry, I've got to lock it up and leave. Oh, I don't have flexibility here.
I hear you.
So that's why I'm telling you, just do everything you can to just get it out here. Okay, because then you can sit somebody here and worry about go get a truck at Home Depot for $17 or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm just telling you, I don't want to have this conversation tomorrow and be like, I'm sorry, I have to hit the road. And I'm, because at that point, I just have to secure the house, and I just have to go and all right. So yeah, just, do what you need to do. I'm going to be doing stuff, and just come and go and do what you need.
Okay, so these are the people that took over your mother's house. These two women?
Yeah, it was actually, there were 2 women and 5 men that I counted walking out of the house that morning. She wanted to tell me that it wasn't them, but she had no idea at that point that I was actually sitting down the street watching. Later I found out at that point, I had found out that they had tried to rent the house when we were trying to sell it. They had approached the realtor about renting the house. They had said that they didn't have any money, couldn't pay rent, but they just wanted to do maintenance in exchange. So what ended up happening is when I told them, no, we needed to sell the house, they just had a U-Haul truck delivered and decided to move in anyway. So so it turned out, now when I went there, I had no idea who they were, but it turned out it was somebody that had tried to rent the house.
So at this point, they had been in the house how long?
I would say probably a couple months, 2-3 months.
Really? All right. And had they done anything to destroy the house?
They hadn't done anything to destroy the house other than, busting in the back door.
Yeah, that's good. And so when you confronted them for being in the house, what was their excuse?
She said that the furniture was delivered there by mistake.
Oops. Well, just go ahead and move it in?
Yeah, I sat there, and it's a whole game. I'm certified in de-escalation, so communicating and not arguing and not calling her out on lying and things like that is all part of just playing the game. Because if I sit there and say, you're lying, I watched you pull out of this driveway, the only thing that does is just escalate the situation. Then I have law enforcement involved, and I'm no different than any other homeowner dealing with the situation.
You created a lease between yourself and your mother, so you showed up as the legal tenant to occupy the house.
Yes, I had read, I learned a lot about squatters over a weekend, and I had heard a lot of them have fake leases. So I thought, if I'm going to get in my car and I'm going to drive 10, 12 hours and show up there, if I didn't have a lease in hand and they had a fake lease, I would just been sent home. So I needed to get a lease. We got it notarized. My mom was still emotionally just spent from losing her husband, my father. So I couldn't even tell her. I just had to tell her that I was going to go do repairs on the home, but I wanted a lease to show that I belonged there.
Does that work in Texas, Mark?
It can work. I really like his approach, because he was firm. He set deadlines with them, and one of the things that he did as well was getting them on camera to admit that they weren't supposed to be there. And I think that really would carry a lot of currency normally. One of the problems that we have in Texas, I'm sure other states have this as well, is if you wrongfully remove a tenant, even one who's not legally supposed to be there, if you fail to go through the legal process of eviction, you subject yourself to having the tenant go to a local justice of the peace and asking for something called a writ of reentry. And that's where the constables will walk out, will go to the property with the tenant and force you into returning possession of your own property to those tenants.
Even though they got it illegally.
Yes, absolutely. Because the question of whether or not it was illegal has not been resolved by a court. So there's no self-help in evictions.
And what helps me is that I'm not the homeowner in any of these situations. So, I'm, tenant versus homeowner versus tenant. Laws are written against the homeowners. But I actually assume the same rights. And in my cases, I'm not physically throwing them out. I'm getting them to want to leave.
What made them want to leave in this situation?
Well, in this situation, I switched places with them. So once I'd gained possession, so like if in certain situations, if they don't have a lease, it all comes down to possession. So when they start the civil court process, and they have possession, that's what gives them all the rights. So if I can gain possession prior to the civil process starting, then I have the rights. I have the rights of possession. Then they would have to literally take me to civil court to fight to get back in instead of fighting to stay in.
Mark, you see, you have to physically get them out of the house.
Yes, I think so, at least in Texas.
So you got to lure them out of the house.
Right. And I really think that this method, though, is going to get very different results from very different judges in Texas. So, it's if it does get to a point to where a court does have to intervene in one of these scenarios, it can be a bit of a coin toss. But I think there's a lot of value in pursuing that opportunity to get the tenants to leave voluntarily.